Hello, sir.
How are you?
Care to talk on camera at all about the potential Marshall megasite coming up? As I live and breathe, right? You'll be our, I believe, third representative talking today. They met first down at the BFW today and then down at the Marshall Township Hall.
I think Steve Caro is there. I don't know who else is present. One other representative might have been available. Sarah Leitner, possibly.
No, there's a gentleman from, I believe he's in the UP.
I'm not sure what connectedness he'd have with this, but
I think he was just, they were concerned about constitutional protection here in Michigan, essentially I think people feel like this was snuck through on them, Jim. Like
I don't believe it was snuck through on anyone. I think this is a very transformational development for South Central Michigan. It's going to bring 2,500 jobs to
I've heard that.
Our South Central Michigan community. There are going to be a lot of spun-off economic opportunities which will evolve. This is happening, and at this point, I don't think that coming out with placards anymore is going to change this transformational opportunity that exists for.
So you think it's happening even if the majority of the people are against it?
I don't think the majority of the people are against it.
Well,
why do you say there's a majority of people against it? Just
well, I mean, as a representative, it seems like it would have been your job and the job of the other representatives to find out what the public's approval was, and not just decide for them and then tell them what was going to be happening.
I don't decide for Marshall Township what's going to be happening. We decided on funding to put in the SOAR fund, the Strategic Outreach and Attraction Reserve Fund. So that's how we were able to get this Ford battery plant here, is to fund it with some state incentives.
And again, we're talking here with Representative Jim Hadsma. I really wanted to ask you at the township meeting before you stepped out there, and I wanted to tell you, sir, I was disappointed when you spoke to the township at the public meeting there in Bedford, and then when you concluded your comments, you said, "Does anyone have any questions?" And then you quickly caught yourself and said, "I mean from the board." And it bothered me that you didn't want the public to speak to you, but just the other ruling class people.
That's an incorrect perception of what I was doing. And I didn't stop and say, "I mean from the board." I think I indicated I would take questions from the board, because in a public meeting, that's how it's supposed to take place. I certainly would take questions from the public anytime. You know how to reach me readily. At a public meeting like that, having served on the county board for 4 terms, it's not the place of a visitor who's reporting to the board to take questions from the audience. The audience could have asked questions later. I couldn't stay because I've been up almost the whole week, and we'd already gone past 9 o'clock. I'm here talking with you now.
Sure.
I certainly
the main question I'd want to answer is about the math. I've heard many people say that we're paying literally more money out in tax incentives than this will generate in the wages in 100 years.
I disagree with that. I don't know about you, but the jobs that are going to be coming here pay much more than the non-unionized jobs in Fort Custer Industrial Park as a rule. So there are going to be starting jobs, wages, but these wages, I think MEDC could have done a better job of illustrating what all the wages were and compare that with a true median. I am appreciative that we're going to have well-paying jobs. I know what people generally make in industrial context jobs in Calhoun County. These are going to be good-paying jobs. They're going to be among the best-paying jobs when we get the UAW representation in the county.
No matter how good of a job or how good paying of a job it is, if we pay Ford in China more for it than gets paid back into the economy, that's a net loss.
I don't see you're going to have that net loss. I don't know where you're coming up with this appreciation that we're paying more to Ford in China to attain a net loss.
If I were to have someone saying, "I will give employees in your community back $1 million, but only if you first give me $2 million, and then I'll pay it out over a matter of time," that doesn't seem like to me to be any kind of a good deal. And again, I don't, but neither one of us are sitting here looking at a list of numbers, so I'm not going to try and like pin you to the exact numbers of how it pans out, how many years. But just on the general concept, you said that you served 4 terms in the county government, and you know that that's not the place for like a discourse with the public.
I agree with that.
If the public meeting isn't the place for the public to be heard, where is?
They speak to the board during public comment time. It's like the wild, wild west when board members intersect with the public at a board meeting. The opportunity to confer with the board members is at public comment and then following the meetings. But a good public meeting is not supposed to have everybody in, say, a township board hall, board meeting room, communicate directly with the board. Yes.
And now, are you familiar with Robert's Rules of Order?
I am.
You are?
Yes.
And you're an attorney, is that right?
That is true.
Okay, so you know that the township runs legally by Robert's Rules of Order, correct?
I don't know if they're doing Robert's or Mason's rules, but
they're
running by some species
They officially
of
voted
rules.
in on public record using Robert's Rules.
Okay.
All right. The first tenet of Robert's Rules is that everyone be given an opportunity to speak.
Sure. That's why they have public comment. They have public comment at the end of the meeting. They have public comment at the conclusion of the meeting.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of isolation and a lot of boxing in to keep the public comment from being a direct discourse back and forth with the things that they're trying to address.
I don't think a direct discourse back and forth through a meeting is an effective public meeting. I think public comment at the commencement of a meeting, public comment at the conclusion of a meeting, communication by, say, the road department who was there to report to the board, with the board, rather than directly with those in the audience, is the proper way to undertake a public meeting.
I find that opinion that you're expressing right now to be leaning far more communist than the one of the representatives that spoke earlier that said they wanted to hear from the people and what the people wanted.
I want to hear from the people all the time. I have coffee hours frequently. You're enabled to come to those coffee hours. I'm available by cell phone. I'm available by people just stopping by my residence. I'm available if people want to come and say, we need you to come to my, say, Old Bedford school to talk about homeschooling, which I'm doing on Monday evening.
If I could put it to a specific example, here recently the township appointed supervisor Joni Jones, that you're well familiar with, rebutted me when I expressed my extreme displeasure and her in no way pulling the people of Bedford to find out if they want a superintendent appointed in that township. And her answer to that is that they were elected into those positions to decide for people.
I agree with that position.
You agree with that position?
People don't like that.
Without checking with them?
If the people don't like what those elected officials are doing, they have recall opportunities. Adam Heikkila was recalled as recently as 2018.
I understand, but the election official in Calhoun...
I did say Adam Heikkila, yes.
The election official there in Calhoun County has stated a interpretation of election law that doesn't allow Joni to be recalled except for a less than 2-month period coming up in still a year away or so.
So I'm not familiar with the recall.
Yeah, it's a corrupt interpretation. As an attorney, I think you should look into it, especially as our representative, because when I went up and put them on camera about this very issue, they went up and said that they were interpreting the election law that says that you can't be recalled within the first or the last year of your term to apply to Joni's shortened term.
I understand.
So since she's only serving for about 2 years and a couple months.
She's a trustee who was appointed to fulfill the term of, I believe, Supervisor Scott, who stepped down last year. So I'm not familiar.
I believe he was pushed out in disgrace for sexual harassment.
I don't know what happened. I don't know the background of whether he resigned or whether he was pushed out in disgrace. But he left, and Joni Jones then was selected, I believe, by the board to fulfill his term. So
I believe it was pushed through by the township attorneys that Bill put in place that seemed to be insider connected into this whole corruption with Battle Creek and forcing the water project that we're giving to the city of Battle Creek, $5.1 million gift to the city of Battle Creek. You don't find that to be unusual?
Justin, I don't know that what you're saying is gospel. I suspect it's apocryphal. But I don't know
Well,
specifically
you could always
about...
look into it as our representative.
Well, nobody's asked me to look into it. If you're
I've
asking
asked
me,
you to look into it.
You have not, to my recall. You've asked me to communicate with the Attorney General. I have. If they don't want to call you, that's their prerogative. But I've done what I told you I would do, and I've spoken
Okay,
to
well,
the
I'm
Attorney
asking you
General.
now to look into the fact that we're being told that the process here in Bedford is that because of around a dozen houses on River Road having PFAS contaminated testing wells, that we're going to take out a $5.1 million loan and build a $5.1 million plus water infrastructure, and then we're going to give that lock, stock, and barrel to the city of Battle Creek to then turn around and use to make profits off of Bedford residents with, and including the new industrial...
Who told you all this? Who told you all
This
this?
is a matter of undisputed facts, sir. It's been getting discussed
Tell
in
me
the public meetings.
Tell me more about the undisputed quality of these facts. When you say it's a matter of undisputed fact, tell me why it's so axiomatic.
It's a matter of record.
Well,
it's on
which
the
record?
township meeting record.
If you want to show me the record, I'd be happy to go over it with you, and you can demonstrate to me
It's
the
on the
facts.
township's website, on their agendas, on their meeting minutes. It's all there on public record, the official record of what they're deciding to do. You're not going to be able to sidestep this and say, if I don't bring
I'm
you
not
the
trying to-
paperwork,
I'm not
that you're
trying
not
to
going to look
sidestep
into it.
anything,
It's
Jess.
available to all of us digitally online.
I'm not
You
trying
can look
to
it up just like
sidestep
I did,
anything.
or have one of your assistants do it.
Nobody's asked me to look into it before. So
I'm asking you right now.
Well, I told you I would
The
right now
representative
look into
from
it.
CEI, the engineering corporation that was hired with a no-bid contract to get their $1 million cut of this project, openly told us in the public meeting that it was very unusual that we were giving the infrastructure to the city of Battle Creek.
So
that was not the normal situation.
I have not had anyone ask me to explore this issue before you did now. So I will explore it and decide what's, to the best of my ability, to discern factual with you. And I'll get back with you about it.
The thing I'm most confused here, sir, today
I don't think
is
there
that
should be any
you're
confusion.
is that you're a Democrat. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. It was my belief up until talking to you now that it was typically just a Republican who would say that I'm elected to make decisions for people that they're not have the aptitude to make for themselves, and that's why I'm a representative, is to decide for them. Whereas the Democrat said, no, I believe in democracy.
So
I
Justin-
believe that what the people want should be what is represented, not just my opinion of what is best for them.
I didn't say anything of that sort. I didn't say I was elected to make decisions for people because they don't have the aptitude to make the decisions themselves. I was speaking about how the township government works. And township voters elect a township board. And if there's a problem with one of the township trustees, as we saw in Bedford in 2018, there's a recall opportunity. But the decision-making process has to be made by those board members.
Is
And-
your best idea of America, is your best idea of American government the fact that representatives do whatever they will, and then if we don't like it, it's up to us to recall them or put up with it?
No, you
Not
can-
that they should do their job and
you
represent
can,
well?
You can elect them at the next cycle, and you can also meet them regularly. You can express your points of view.
I'm doing that right now.
Well, you're asking me questions, and you're also saying things that aren't whatsoever coming from my mouth. That I make decisions because people don't have aptitude to make their own decisions. I never would say
I
that.
asked you if you agreed with Jody's position, and that was exactly how she alliterated it, was that most people do not have the aptitude to consider these matters, and that's why they elect people into the positions to make the decisions for them, because they can't get in the know on everything.
Just I would not have expressed anything like that in those kinds of words. I believe people do have the aptitude to make decisions, but on a House member context, we represent around 90,000 people per House district. So I'm certainly constantly listening to people who have ideas for bills, who don't agree with certain bills on which I might vote yes, but I certainly think that people have the aptitude to communicate to the House member and advocate for the House member to make a vote a certain way. And they have the aptitude to actually be House member. They can take on a House member and become the House representative on his or her own. But to have 90,000 people making a decision, every one, you'd never get anything done. That's why we have a government that runs by representatives and state
Right, and I would
senators.
think a competent representative finds out what the majority's opinion is and acts on
Are you
that,
suggesting
not just
I'm not?
guesses.
Are you suggesting
I
I'm not
certainly have
competent?
seen. I have certainly seen nothing in this community to tell me that the majority
Which
of people are
community?
in favor of this megasite. The
What does
exact
that have to
opposite
do?
would
What
be
does that
true.
have to do with my competence or incompetence?
I've heard you say that you support this.
I absolutely support it. It's going to be beneficial for this community. It's going to be beneficial for Coldwater,
Whether or not they
Quincy,
like it?
Battle Creek,
Whether or not
Albion.
they like it, why isn't it going in on a brown field? Why are we tearing up
Because-
fresh farm fields?
Have you seen the agriculture that's being done on this allegedly very rich, loamed agricultural area that's depicted?
I was just out there looking at it.
And what can you tell me about it? Do you got some kind of agricultural degree? What can you tell me that's so valuable about this real property compared to some other real property, say down in Tecontia?
I think it's pretty easy to see that it's not a brown field. I think it's pretty easy to see that stuff is growing there.
So, Justin,
lush growth.
You couldn't put this kind of development on a brownfield of the
Why?
kind you're, because it's going to be bigger than what's contemplated. Also, this needs to be put on the intersection of two major interstates. That's where this is located. That's why this is desirous.
Oh, absolutely. That much is abundantly clear. That is the most advantageous thing for these corporations, just not for the people. And you're supposed to
Sometimes-
represent the people and not the corporations.
I don't represent Marshall Township. I don't represent the city of Marshall.
You
This is
represent the
going to be.
people in Michigan.
I
And this
represent the
affects
pe-
all of us in here in
It
Michigan.
affects us positively. It affects South
That's your
Central
opinion,
Michigan
without
positively.
checking with the people.
I have checked with lots of people. I've
Who?
met with lots of individuals. I'm not going to say on camera about with whom I've met, with whom I've
I
articulated.
thought this was
about
all
this.
kept a secret until about 3.5 weeks ago.
I have heard about this for probably 6 or 8 weeks. I've heard about it, but in a context in which there weren't specific stakeholders mentioned in the past. Hey, how you doing, Sully? Yeah.
How do you explain a right-leaning Republican governor of Virginia blocking this from going into Virginia, saying it's unsafe for the residents in Virginia, but we're supposedly having a liberal, environmentally minded governor like Gretchen Whitmer, and she's forcing this through on us? How do you explain that?
I explain it because I think Glenn Youngkin was wrong. We have an opportunity to make certain Michigan continues to be and perhaps is even better than it's been.
And that can't be done without communist China?
As you know, this is a Ford plant. It's wholly owned by Ford.
And I think
There
Ford
is-
has plenty enough money to invest in any of this without involving communist China.
the state.
Also,
Okay, let me speak.
Yes, sir. Sorry.
The state of the battery development is with this Chinese concern. They're just going to be working with this Chinese concern to bring these specific newer type of batteries to the marketplace.
You ever heard
in
of
Ford
in for a
vehicles.
penny, in for a pound?
I don't know that in the context you're depicting.
Do you know about the Light Institute for Chinese Studies on university campuses around Michigan and the country?
I don't.
Well, you should, because you're our representative. And that's a Red China regular army presence on our university campuses.
I don't know about that, but I'll check that out too.
Dollars.
So I'll tell you what, I got to be on the other side of the state in just a couple of hours. I've stopped and talked with you for quite a long duration of time. I appreciate you taking the opportunity, but I've got to get moving. So thanks.
If you have to do the walk of shame, I've got about 20 more questions.
I don't know what you mean by the walk of shame.
Well, you shouldn't have to just walk away in the middle of a productive interview here.
You've had an interview for 20 minutes. I'm already 20 minutes beyond the time I should be. I'm going to be late
This
for
isn't
my
just for me.
appointment.
This is on YouTube.
I understand it's on YouTube. It's
question.
yes. What's your name, sir?
So,
You tell
I'm
me.
Jeff Kill.
Jeff. How
What's
you
your
doing?
name?
My name is Jim.
Jim what?
Jim Hodgson.
Jim Hosbin. So when this mega site, if this does go through and they start
It's going
manufacturing-
through. What do you mean?
Oh, so it's going
Why
through.
do you talk
Okay, well,
about
that's
if
fine.
it goes through?
That's
Listen
fine.
to
now.
that.
Okay, well, let's
Government
just
telling
assume
the
that it's going
people.
through. Yeah, it's going
It's
through.
already happened. I'm
So
not
who-
telling the people. It's already a done deal.
You're just on
Well,
camera
come
telling
out
the
here.
people you got no say in it. It's
So
a done deal.
What's the plan?
So
Are
the
we gonna,
votes have been taken. The money is going to be applied to this development. You're
I-
talking about something that's all over, but
I'll give you a great offer. One more question.
What do you want,
Can I ask
Jeff?
my question?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's this plant going to be if it doesn't take off and people don't buy all these electric cars that you guys are supposedly pushing? Is this plant going to end up being like another plant that's out of Detroit that's this desolate? And you can go drive down through Detroit, you can see them all.
Jeff, what do you mean by you guys? Tell me who you guys
Well,
are.
I mean, obviously, I don't have the money to
Could
buy
answer the question instead of picking it apart.
So, I mean, does
It's a simple question.
anybody else have the money to buy an electric car?
Let alone the
If
battery.
we don't make changes,
It's all a bunch of bullshit.
Thank you.
okay, if we don't make
Thank you,
changes
sir.
in how we
Jim, you don't drive an
support
electric car.
manufacturing,
The river.
I don't drive an electric car.
You don't drive an
yet.
electric
I
car.
drive a
So how is
2010
electric generated?
combustible engine car.
I understand. This is what I'm saying, and I'm gonna
Doesn't
leave you.
mean I won't-
I won't
doesn't mean I won't
torture
drive an
you. I'm
electric
gonna
car.
say one
You're
more
not
thing.
torturing me.
Listen, today.
You're delaying me, but you're not torturing me.
All right. Can you say what you think about the community representative Jerry being arrested at the township meeting for free speech?
I don't know who Jerry is, and I don't know what
He's the
township
elder
you
of
mean.
this town.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Good question.
in expansion of that, today the residents around here, the voters around here, the people around here had to go and meet privately at the VFW because they're not allowed to speak at the public meetings.
Which public
Communist control.
meeting? Which public
Because he
meeting?
got arrested for speaking at the Marshall Township public meetings.
Spoke out of turn. Who tells me when I can and cannot speak?
Are you Jerry?
No, I'm not. But
Okay.
we will be there.
And
for
I've
the
been
next
arrested
meeting.
for freedom of speech violation myself. If you want to
So I
talk
don't
to the
know-
ask,
There's
right
more
here
on the
I don't know
on
about
camera.
Okay, I don't know about the circumstances of Jerry or
Okay, well, in
what
my
happened in Marshall
circumstances, a
Township.
Bedford trustee assaulted me on camera in front of a crowd of witnesses. He's
So-
being prosecuted for it.
Guess what he got?
And during the meeting, when he was running on his mouth about security and safety of the people, I whispered into my camera, "This from the man who just assaulted me." And for that, the police officers came up and slapped cuffs on me from his nod to them, and I got drug out.
Well, we're
were
far
informing
afield
us
from
start
talking about
this.
the mega site and this gentleman.
I don't think we are, because it's all about freedom of speech. It's all about the people not being heard.
You're talking about some specific issues of which I don't have knowledge. I'm going to get back to this gentleman's question. This gentleman's question is, what would happen if this were to fail? Because people are not going to buy electric vehicles. People are going to buy electric vehicles.
Yeah.
You and I might be of a certain age that we don't know how this is going to be, where we will arrive in 2035, but people will. We have to change. If you don't want to change, if you don't want to modify anything about what we can do in this South Central Michigan community, well then, in my opinion, you should get out of the way. We need an opportunity. We need an
Citizens need
opportunity.
to get out of the way. Well, what do you say about Elon Musk saying that the electric vehicle technology is bad for the environment and it just doesn't matter because we need to become an interstellar population?
I don't believe Elon Musk is an expert on this issue. I don't know.
I
what
think
he
he's the
said.
top electric vehicle maker in the world, right?
I don't have any idea what Elon Musk said, or if you paraphrased what he said accurately. We are going to have an electric vehicle economy. It's coming. And you need to understand that just because we might be of a certain vintage and drove combustible engine cars, this is not going to be the future.
Jim, this
and
is
if you don't want an
this
economy,
is the COVID lockdown
that's the
times
vanguard
10.
of the future.
You're being a dupe. This is the COVID
not a
lockdown times 10.
It doesn't
The
have anything to do
electric
with the
vehicle
COVID
thing is not
lockdown either.
taking
Gus.
off. They came up with electric vehicles before they came up with gas vehicles. In the 1900s, Jim. The technology doesn't work. They haven't solved the problem.
I disagree.
The batteries are too dirty.
Jeff, you got another question?
Yeah, one more quick question. So what happens
Oh,
when
yeah, I didn't actually finish an answer to your question, which is what happens if these vehicles aren't purchased. I have faith that they will be. I have faith that this is going to be part of our economy in the future. But I disagree with those who think this is going to be some like post-Olympics, broken down Olympic stadium 20
Well, let
years
me
after
ask
the
you-
Olympics is held. It's not going to be a white elephant. It's going to be, I think, the star of our economic robustness in Marshall Township, Marshall City, South Central Michigan.
Is it not true that, you know, every time we have a good storm that somebody loses power, some, you know, town, it doesn't matter? It's all over. I mean, it happens all over. That's true. I mean, it's right. I mean, you see it all the time. There's people out of power here, people out of
I
power
see
there.
that. I don't know what it has to do
Well,
with the mega site.
well, how are they going to charge them electric cars if, you know, they can't even keep the power grid up long enough to, you know, when we have a storm, or, you know, there's all sorts of evidence out there contradicting the fact that the batteries don't charge when it's cold. The chargers don't work. So
Jeff, I'd absolutely wish that we had a more resilient electric conveyance grid. This shouldn't be happening. It's a different issue to talk about in relation to how are we going to ensure that an ice storm like the one we had 2 weeks ago isn't going to take out, say, half of Albion's power, and then have that power stay out for at least a couple of days in many instances, maybe a few days. That is something we need to work on with Consumers Energy and DTE, and make sure they're building more resilient, more sound grid. So, because they're certainly increasing prices on electricity, we have to make sure that while their prices are being raised, we also are having a more resilient grid that's not subject to an ice storm taking it down every couple of weeks.
all right, but that still doesn't take the fact that
Guys, I appreciate you
it's
taking the
cold,
time, but I'm really late.
chargers
I've
don't
got to be over in Sterling Heights I was supposed to be there at 3. We're now at 2 minutes to 2.
If you want to be able to walk down the street, you're going to have to represent better, sir.
I represent really well, and you're not in my district right now. You are in Marshall City.
I understand.
And I'm asking your questions answering your questions in Marshall
I understand.
City.
We the people.
What affects people affects us all, sir.
It's going to affect us all to the betterment.
That's
So,
your
after the
opinion, and you shouldn't be allowed to make it for us.
Apologize.
See the number of us here and the number of you there. You don't have the right to make a decision for
It's not
everyone.
for the betterment.
You have.
I guess
think
you'll.
he said he was from the Detroit area. Did I understand
Yeah,
that
north of
correctly, sir?
Detroit.
Yeah. So he's from that area. I don't know. I know you're from Bedford. I don't know where this gentleman.
I'm talking for the whole country,
You're not
sir.
from
Here when we had
He's from that area. He's already seen what's happening.
I know all about the Enbridge oil spill.
Are we gonna do it again, probably eventually?
Why?
Some will leak out, contaminate again.
Why do you say that?
Well, I mean, look what
Why do you
Because
say that as if it were absolutely gospel?
Because the Enbridge oil spill stunk of an insurance scam, and nobody looked into it. That's not good representation either.
What does Enbridge oil spill have to do with the Ford battery plant?
Are you kidding me? They're both on the Kalamazoo River.
Yeah. So what happens when we dump it all that chemicals?
Look what happens when we let big corporations have access to our river.
We have 1/5 of the world's,
So
the
you
world's
give me
largest
some
fresh water supply.
evidence that demonstrates that this battery plant is going to be deleterious to the Kalamazoo River. I have an office on the Kalamazoo River.
It's a
I
whole
live
continent
very
called
near the
China.
Kalamazoo River.
Anybody can go look at it.
I get it.
It's a crap hole.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Supposed Representative Jim Hadsma.
Listen, typical left.
Yes, absolutely.
Walk of shame.
The biggest problem I have with people is China.
Yeah, he couldn't get out of here fast enough.
Buying up